Hi guys, welcome to Raymouth Studios. Today we will talk about Barons War events. There are two Barons War events coming soon, one in August in Nottingham at Britcon and one in Cardiff in November. We will chat about our experiences, about the previous events. We are all members of the community with the Grandmaster here at the top of the helm, Andy Hobday from Futsor Futsor Miniatures, who is the author of Rules of Baron's War and half of Futsor Miniatures, and Hobday and Hicks. We have a Will Granter who will help me. I just reminded him today, who will help me to run an event in Cardiff
Yeah,
at the beginning of 2025. Will took part in both previous events, and he is also involved with Crow Industries. We've got Sam Bliss, who I met at
yeah,
every tournament that I go to. I think literally everyone that I've been to, Sam is there. And we even managed to play a game once, which was amazing. After I don't know how many
yeah,
years that was. And we
yeah.
have
Every
Kirk.
tournament, one game.
That's right, isn't it? And we have a Kieran Kirkham, who I met twice, once at Britcon and at the very first event I went to that Mark organized. And I think we had a game there, but Kieran also organized a narrative event, so we may chat about that. Hello, guys.
Hi.
Hi, nice to be here.
Cool. Andy, I'm gonna start with you. I was wondering, because my experience working with you on events in general with Futsor, you are always very very up there, community centered. You always support the events. We are always having wealth of prizes to give away so that players can go home with stuff. I was wondering, what role events play in your overall strategy for Baron's War?
I think calling it a strategy is giving it too much credence, as in it's something that we sit and plan. I think events are really important uh, because it allows people to play the game. Simple as that. A lot of people can get together at clubs or in groups with their friends, but there's a lot of people who want to play and are quite isolated.
Mhm.
So for me, events are a good way to bring people together.
Mhm.
So uh, labeling everything an event again is for me isn't correct. I think there's some what you'd call tournaments, which where people will come and they'll play, and it'll be quite uh, competitive, and people are playing to win or in a good spirit, but they're there to win, and they've spent time looking at their forces and what they're going to play, etc., and that kind of thing. And then there's events where people come together and play, like we mentioned Kieran's narrative scenario, which is a different way of bringing people to play together and play. And also with the Barons War, still, even though it's 4 years old now, it's still quite a young game and it's still growing. It's good to have events to bring people together where they can just learn the rules
Mhm.
in an environment where they feel comfortable, so they can come and ask the questions, they can come and play the games. And I think you know an event, I think for me is at the moment is more that kind of thing. And I think it kind of comes back from my days at Games Workshop many years ago, where people would come in and they'd learn how to play the games. And because we haven't got futsal hasn't got loads of retail stores or its own club or all that kind of thing. Just having a place that people can come and play and learn with fellow people who enjoy the game is really important to me.
Mhm.
I think it's a good way to get people playing.
Yes, I think we had a few players who actually never played the game before, and they came to a tournament, and they seemed to have fun. And I can see Will is raising hands. Will, can you tell us about the experience you had like on Baron's War tournament, coming to the game without playing it before?
Yeah, definitely. So little bit of a disclaimer, I'm known in our club as the rules guy, in that I can skim a rule book and then I've gone, all right, okay, yeah, I'll teach you all how to play this now. Usually with loads of errors. So that was sort of my mindset going into Baron's War. Well, if I learn my army, everyone else can teach me how to play theirs, and then I'll sort of get the rest of the rules.
Mm.
And what's been really nice about it, with every event you've run, definitely, is everyone's been nice about it. Like, I'll usually sit down and go, just so you know, this is my third game. And everyone's gone, oh, right, okay. So I'll slow down a little bit and I'll talk through the process of what we do. Um, there's always people going, oh, cool, you weren't quite sure on that. Do you want me to talk you through how it's done? Or do you want me to slow down or explain what I'm doing? It's just been nice to just pick it up as I've gone that way. I'm a firm believer of you learn best by doing. So jumping straight into the events and tournaments you've run, sort of trial by fire. I usually aim for the nice wooden spoon prize at the bottom. um, Luckily, not got it yet. Which I think that says more about your rules, Andy, than thing, because I was a total novice going in, and I could still, with a decently written list, or at least an all comers list, I could still sort of like hold my own, which was nice.
Just
But yeah, it,
sorry. Go on.
good,
Sorry.
I'd say, is just like the whole community and just the game is nice and easy to pick up. So just having those people going, oh, just you've forgotten to do this. Do you want to take that back? Or this can happen, right? It's just those little nudges, paired with again just a nice, solidly written rule pack, lets that barrier to entry be very, very small, which I think is just a good thing all round.
Just wanted to say to everybody that we'll turn up to the last tournament with fully mounted retinue, 21
Yeah,
mounted,
yeah,
It
it's a
was Will
full
I
mounted
played in the last
sergeant.
one.
Did you play it,
Yeah,
Sam?
yeah, we did, didn't we?
Yeah, we had a great game. It came down to, I think there was about four figures left on the field
Yeah,
by the end of
yeah,
it.
something like that. It was the most violent game I've ever seen.
Yeah, like what is funny about it, you knew exactly what you are doing. And I actually played that retinue as well, like few days before
Yeah,
the tournament, and I remember that being a very fun game too. Sam, you are going to every Barons War tournament possible. Uh,
I'm trying.
what makes you go all the time? What makes you, come back and
Um,
new retinues? I always enjoy like getting retinue lists from you because you're always bringing something like, something new to me.
yeah. No, I mean, when I first looked into Baron's War, I'd already started making an army to actually play for Lions Rampant, and then I found Baron's War on the Kickstarter. I missed, unfortunately, the first Kickstarter, but got involved with it straight away after the second one came out. Got involved with that, and I've been with it ever since then. And unfortunately, like throughout the last few years, while I've been deployed with the army and stuff like that, I just wasn't getting the time to play regular games. And then I say this started coming out as a new game coming out. The events were very regular, and I just said, well, sod it. I've got the armies now. I've already bought the figures and I've painted them up. I want to use them. Um, so yeah, I threw myself into the first one. I think that was at the Sarissa when it was hosted there,
That's right.
and I managed to get to that one.
That was my
Um,
first. That was my first. Sorry, that was my first tournament ever in any wargaming.
wow.
yeah, I think
I haven't
that
done
was my
anything before.
yeah, that was my first round. I've been a few to 40K and Lord of the Rings SBG. I've done a few of those, but yeah, I hadn't played either for a few years, and I thought, well, if I'm going to get back into it, let's get back into it proper. Did the Sarissa one, and yeah, I've tried to get to as many as I can. I say went to Kieran's narrative one. I've been to both of the Cardiff games. Britcon last year. I've got my ticket for Britcon this year and the Grand Melee as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, been trying to get around to as many as I can. And as you say, with Will saying it's new people, I faced new people each time. I faced people who've played for a while, and it's a game where you can just slow down, take your time for a second, and go, "Are you sure about that?" And you just say, "I'm fairly good at picking up rules, and I've found it quite easy to pick up." And yeah, they're always extremely appreciative of the ones that are new to the game with it. And it's, 99 times out of 100, it's a great atmosphere and you can't go wrong with it. I've really enjoyed my time with it. It's been great. As they bring in new armies to it each time as well as you can. You sort of, over the time, you've just developed those forces over the time period, and you figure out what works for you and what you like and where you can go with that force. And like you say, you've got the different ones which are tournaments, which I kind of see as the Grand Melee's tournament style, and then you've got your events like Kieran's and that, and you can, you throw different things in there, you see what works, we'll see what doesn't work, just like throw a fluffy list in there and just have a bit of fun with it. Yeah, and it's great to do.
Just to enjoy the game, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kieran.
I I saw the Kickstarter for some context. So I've been here since the beginning, so to speak. And insanely, the first Kickstarter, I think I put 900 quid into that.
Woo.
And then about 750, 780 on the second one. And then the third one was like Outremer, and I basically just did an all-in, bare bones, basic all-in, and left it at that because I wasn't too bothered. Outremer is important, but I was more like, I'm quite happy staying in Europe, thanks. It's too warm out that way to be. No, so I did the Lincoln Fair event. But I've got 20 plus years of wargaming behind me, numerous tournament years, back when Warhammer Fantasy was still a thing and we had the GTs. Hell, I knew Andy Hobday when he was just a tech guy at Games Workshop back in the early 2000s, and I was a chef at Bugman's Bar.
True story.
Yeah, so that shows you to some degree how long I've been mucking around with toy soldiers in this world. But yeah, I like competitive games. I'm very much happy to have competitive games, but for me, I'm very much a beer and pretzel gamer. I like to be able to just have the community, the friendliness, talk about stuff, and like push toy soldiers around on a table and roll dice. And if I win, I win. I lose, I lose. I'm not bothered overall as long as everyone has a good game. I mean, to show for that, I have generally at every event we've been to ended up winning best sportsman, which has been a bit weird given. And at the first Britcon, I came third, and that's what shocked me. Like, that's how well the system is I am not a competitive gamer. I did not come with a competitive list in any way, shape, or form. And I just rocked up to have games and see people and have a good time. And I mean, at Britcon last year, I had a great time. And I did that whole tournament on no sleep. I'd finished work that morning and then went to the tournament and then went back to work that night. So I literally I was awake for about 48 hours on that weekend. It was a bit of an insane weekend because of work. And then I ran Lincoln Fair. There were a lot of work went into that. Andy and Mark and everyone they were happy to throw support at me, but I'm quite an independently minded person and I do a lot of stuff for myself and I get stuff organized. Just because years of being a head chef as well meant that self-sufficiency, and if I don't need help from anyone else, I won't ask for them because I don't want to bother them because they're very busy men in this industry, given how small the team is, and they do a lot of work already, and I didn't want to overburden them with any excess work for my event. So I just poured man hours into making terrain, setting the tables up. Sam was at it. I wrote the campaign system in about a week, in between basically 10-hour, 12-hour night shifts. I'd spend about 3 hours a day. I'd wake up and just boot my laptop up, write scenario one, and I'd knock the whole campaign up in about a week. Gave it about a week's worth of play testing with a mate of mine who was at the event as well. That was Scott, who Sam knows now. He was around my house pretty much every evening for a week solid as we just hammered the scenarios out as best we could to make sure they at least worked. Because I was running back and forth between my job and the event at the time, and it was just now life's calmed down a bit. I've not got any events planned for this year, but I'm going to be looking at 2025 and I'll do probably another narrative event weekend, maybe a one day and maybe a weekend. We'll see. It just depends on the numbers, really, and like venue hire. That's really where it comes down to it for me.
Mm-hmm. That's
But
also
being located, we're kind of all right in Nottingham for that. So
you're coming to Britcon as well, right?
yeah, I'm bringing the Marshal.
Yeah, I know. You claimed him quite quickly.
Well, that it's whereas Sam brings a new list every time. I'm a bit old school and I am a traditional dwarf player, which is why I'm very excited about the fantasy range that Hobden and Hicks are producing. Because I've seen Paul's dwarf model, so I'm very excited for when they finally show up. And I'm like, okay, it's elves and orcs first. I'll back it. I'll paint it. Cool. But I'm more looking forward to the dwarf part. But like a dwarf player, I'm very traditional. So once I've wrote an army list, I tend to stick with it until it finally just gets like tabled repeatedly. Then I'll finally change how it works. Otherwise, no, this list is the same list I've been using in every tournament since we've started having events, basically. It hasn't changed.
No, I'm the same. When it's tournament based, it's the same list. It's just tweaked slightly from the last time.
Yeah, that's well, the fact that Britcon's now 750 points, that's an extra 50
nice.
points. I can tweak some bits. Some people have now got mail rather than padded.
Yeah.
That's it. You'll see the list at Britcon, Sam. There is some tweaks from the last time you played it. It really doesn't run away now. So that we'll see how Britcon goes. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Britcon.
Yeah, me.
Yeah, same here. I wonder if I'm going to play this time because, as I said, my first tournament that I ever wargaming tournament was Baron's War that Mark Vance organized.
Well, yeah, that was Sheffield. Your first game was against me.
Yeah,
I think it was second or something. I was pretty wild back then. I didn't know how to behave on tournaments, but I toned down since then.
Well, I remember the game well because you had this massive unit of cavalry, and the objective was slap bang in the middle of the table, and I had a house in front of me, completely blocking it, and everyone was like, "Oh, we can move that." I'm like, "No, this is how."
I was offering that because I thought this is not
terrain. Deal with it. It's how, as I said to you, years of tournament, you just deal with the table as best you can.
Yeah,
and if
that's
you
it.
win, you can win. If you can't, you can't.
That's fair. That was pretty interesting. Yeah. I remember offering to take that off because I felt like that's not right. It was just like I took that. I had like this cavalry unit, just went in for it and then just legged it. That was all.
It's the way the cookie crumbles in these games. You just kind of, for me, with events, be it a competitive tournament or a narrative thing, however the terrain's set up, the mark of a good gamer for me is not wanting it to be fair, it's getting a victory out of an asymmetrical scenario and actually enjoying it in the process rather than going, well, I've already lost this game, so I might as well not. It's like, no, I may not win this game, but I might as well have a laugh about it at the same time and see what I can actually do to possibly get the victory.
Have a go at it. Yeah, I also like, obviously like gaming and tournaments are competitive in one way or another, positively competitive. But I always, whenever I run an event, I always want to make sure that other bits of the hobby are also like rewarded. It is important, I love telling stories, so I kind of always try to like promote, storytelling. Or obviously painting, it's a crucial part of the hobby, so we always have rewards for that as well. And the last story that Andy always chooses, the best story at Britcon, was just truly amazing short that could be part of like a rule book or something, like a like beautifully written story. So events, Barons War events are not only about, playing games, but in general about hobby,
Yeah,
all
agreed.
parts of hobby.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's very much about the community, not just
Yeah.
the game itself.
Yeah.
But
That's
I
it.
also
I think that's one of my little proud moments at the at your last Cardiff one. That's one of the things I won was the story one.
yeah.
It was very much. I have to admit, I drew a lot of wisdom from Benedict's one from the previous year. Because I read his and it was a very strong one. I could remember parts of it and how he'd written it, and I was just like, all right, well, if I go that style, and yeah, I wrote it into it and worked it that way, and yeah, as I say, it came out with it, and I was lucky enough to be chosen with the best story in the last Cardiff one.
Benedict's story was so visual.
It was
It
good.
was
It was very
incredible.
good.
He
Just
as
for
a
Mhm.
There's a thing about Benedict, so most of you won't be aware. As much as he's written bits and pieces of the rule book for Andy, I've known Benedict probably as long as I've known Andy because he's also a historical reenactor. And he used to be the head of what is my society's authenticity department. So the man is a walking historical encyclopedia. But he did all of his masters it is his masters around the medieval church and a lot of medieval history. He spent his whole academic life studying medieval history. So for him to write a story in a medieval context and win the storytelling side of it, I was never surprised by that in any way, shape, or form at Britcon.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah. I think not every academic can write a story in such a beautiful way anyway. So yeah, but just wanted to go back to the community bit, and then probably we're gonna end up. I think it comes from the very top, the community-based game. It comes from Futsal, who really kind of seem to be present, wanting to build that community. And definitely this event showed how enjoyable the community is. I don't know, Andy, would you like to say anything about about this before we finish?
Yeah, really. It's interesting what Kieran just said. Benedict has written a lot for Baron's War. George has as well, and as the game's grown, more and more people are feeding in. And what I see as the game, it's a game that in the mechanics that I wrote has now become bigger. It's bigger than that, and as soon as the game is published and it's out there and people are bought into it, not just with their hard-earned cash, but also with their time and effort and enjoyment. It becomes everybody's game. And I know that sounds very cliched, but to me, that's really important. And one of the things I like when we go to events and we meet people who are in the community and they talk to us about what they like and what they don't like, and all of these things and areas that we can work on. I think that's really important. It's really important to have that community behind a game and having the game have life. The community breathes life into the game, and that's why we're so supportive. I mean, if I wasn't married with kids, we would be doing events every week. I just don't have the time. That's the problem. But
I'm a student. I can't afford that.
yeah, yeah, I get that. There's that element, and this is why as well we like to reward people who come and give their time and money. Why we want people to feel as though they've got something special from it, because both of those things are really important to people, aren't they?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Definitely.
gentlemen, thank you very much for your time today. That was amazing. And I think this conversation shows how great the community is in itself. I really enjoy that, and I look forward to seeing you all on future events.
Definitely.
Yeah, 100%. I'll see you at Britcon.
I'll see you all at Britcon because I'm very much looking forward to the Sunday in the fantasy, shall we say, sneak peek Andy has said there will be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Magic and everything, Kieran.
Yes,
Just
well,
dwarf
well,
players.
I'm not bothered about the magic side of it, Andy. I'm a dwarf man. I'll just stomp forwards and hit them with an axe. I'm not bothered by anything else.
Just like short people hitting stuff.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
my professional job outside of my actual job is walking around hitting people with weapons.
Perfect.
Thank you, guys.
No worries.
Cheers,
Amazing.
man.